Our session this afternoon is online professional development, lessons learned, and Krista LeBrun and Terry Pollard are going to speak for you today, and they are both representing Mississippi Virtual Community College, so we welcome them today.
As she said, I am Krista LeBrun. I am the ELC at Meridian Community College. And a lot of people wonder what the ELC stands for. That stands for eLearning Coordinator. I represent Meridian Community College for the consortium of the 15 community colleges, and I am over the eLearning initiative at MCC. So not only do I work with the online instructors, but I also work with the traditional instructors who incorporate Blackboard. And just to let the USM folks know, we do get a lot of USM students into our online courses, and I was actually just speaking with Amy Thornton. Apparently a USM student wanted to register today for a course that started, about 5-6 weeks ago. So, but we really enjoy that you've invited us onto your campus to present. We're really happy to be here. And I've had a phenomenal experience with Amy Thornton and with the USM students that we've had in our online courses, and hope that we could continue to offer those online courses for you and for your students.
Hello, I don't have to walk over there, actually. I forgot I have
You're not attached.
Here. Hello, everybody. I'm Terry Pollard. I'm the Director of Training and Professional Development for the Mississippi Community College Board. We are a 34-member agency in the MPB building downtown, close to downtown Jackson. And I help to coordinate the training activity across the 15 colleges. Sometimes this means going to an actual campus and delivering training, my favorite thing to do. But more often than not, in the last few years, it has meant building online professional development for our faculty to take. Whether we have faculty in Mississippi or in Florida, Alaska, Afghanistan, whatever it might be, our faculty, they've been from all over the world. It's been fascinating. They take professional development from us through our online component. I'm here to talk about that.
And just to give you a heads up of what we're going to present on today, we will talk about my experiences as a new DLC. I've been in this role for 2 years, and actually that title has changed. When I started, I was Director of Learning, Distance Learning Coordinator, and the title changed to eLearning to be more indicative of what we offer, because we didn't only just facilitate and work with our online instructors, we worked with our traditional as well. I've just completed research. Give my little self a pat on the back. I just completed my PhD. I just defended my dissertation. Thank you. Literally just 2 weeks ago. So, and my research was on attrition and online courses, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'll also talk a little bit about the challenges that I experienced as an administrator for online in trying to get faculty members to buy in to receive training before they actually taught an online course or used the media available with Blackboard.
Krista's also going to talk a little bit about providing professional development at the Meridian Community College campus. We're going to transition then to talk about this at a statewide level as well. Talk about how we've been successful, things we've learned throughout the process, how is our model changing depending on what faculty want and how they want their training and professional development, challenges we faced, and where you can get some more information. To talk about our support system a little bit, I know these dots are probably a little hard to see, but these represent our 15 community colleges across the state. And again, the central office is in Jackson. Our support system really works a number of different ways. We have learning that happens. I was talking to Krista before the presentation. She's constantly talking with other DLCs. She has a counterpart right here at this table, Audra Leverton. Raise your hand, Audra. There's a lot of learning that goes back and forth between ELCs. There's a lot of learning that takes place between the ELCs and the state office. And we use technology such as Blackboard Instant Messenger to do that.
Okay, and one of my very first weeks as an ELC, as I said, we're a consortium, so there's 15 ELCs, one for each community college, and I was kind of just thrown at it and said, okay, well, here you go, now it's yours, and train the faculty, make sure the classes are running smoothly, help the students, and it's very overwhelming. And I actually had a fellow ELC who told me, Krista, and you have to think about this with a really good Southern accent. I'm Yankee, but I've been here for a few years, so I have that kind of confused accent. But she said you can't eat the whole watermelon. You have to just take it one slice at a time. And I'm sure that y'all can appreciate that, because I know that you use Blackboard as well at USM, and then anyone who's a part of the MSVCC is using Blackboard. And it can be a very overwhelming experience, whether you're teaching online or traditional. Then you have to think about that from an administrator standpoint. I had come from a university. We were using an older version of Blackboard, and I was thrown into Blackboard 9.1. And not only was I supposed to learn how to use it, I had to also answer the questions of the instructors who came knocking on my door the very first day saying, I don't understand what this Wimba classroom is. Can you show me how to use it? And I'm thinking, yeah, give me a little bit. Let me figure this out, and I'll get back to you. And it's really a lot of that. And so for me, the Academy has helped me tremendously. Not only have I used it for my faculty, but I used it to train myself as well, because in our roles, we don't have someone who we could just go to on our campus and say, teach me how to do this. I was really dependent upon people like Audra and upon the other ELCs who taught me how to use the materials. And I took a lot of Academy courses. I'm still enrolled in Academy courses. As I came onto the campus, I needed to look at where we stood to be able to help my faculty. And so I want to show you some numbers. And I want to present this to you. I'm not an alcoholic, but, I have to say this, like an AA person. My name is Krista LeBrun, and I have an attrition problem. So one of my very first things that I looked at was, where did we stand? Because to know how to get there, you first have to know where you are. So if you look at that, 30 is a very large number. We had 30% attrition in our online courses and 13% in our traditional courses. And to me, that's a very overwhelming number. Now, statistically, you're going to have 20 to 50% attrition in your online courses. That's nationwide. But for me, I thought, this is a really high number. Why are we only 13% in traditional and 30% in online? Well, you have to look at it. You, as the instructors, you're subject matter experts. You know the material. So when you walk into that classroom, and our lunchtime presenter won't want to hear this, but when you do your lecture-based learning, you're able to present that textbook, you'll be able to stand in front of that classroom and present your material face-to-face. Online is a much different environment. You're dependent upon that technology. And if you don't know how to use the technology real well, or if you're not comfortable with the technology, then you're not going to use it. And if you don't use it, then you're going to lose some of your students based on that. They're not getting that same feel for the subject that you're conveying in your traditional courses as they are online. You can't just throw it into the online course and hope it sticks. You have to really use those products within the online environment to be able to get that same feel that you do in your traditional. So my very first step was I wanted to look at our numbers and see where did we stand and where were we going. I also took a look at our student performance over a 10-year history. And it's a little hard to see, but if you notice that pink line is traditional and the blue line is online. There is only one area that blue line is higher, and that's withdrawals. We skyrocket above in our withdrawals. Now, the A is not so bad, but looking at it, obviously our students are more successful, according to this data, in our traditional courses. Again, I have to look at it. Why are they being more successful in traditional courses? So I went even further. Let's take a look at the tools that are available within Blackboard. Now, these are the tools that we currently have available in 9.1 that I consider to be collaborative, that allows for that student to communicate not only with the instructor, but with their fellow classmates so that they can get that same feel for community that they do in their traditional courses. And I'm sorry, but that did not use this tool column is very overwhelming to me. Now, this is data that I took from students who withdrew from an online course and who obviously was willing to complete the survey. So at this point, they've already made the decision. They were dropping. I wanted to know, why did you drop this course? And one of the questions I asked them was, tell me about your satisfaction with the LMS tools. Tell me how your experience was, because to me, this is how they're going to get that same feel for their traditional course. Now, what I find funny is the only one that they rated high for very satisfied was under email. Why do we think that is? Why did they get such a high score under email? What do you do every day? I've been watching people do it all day long on your cell phones. Instant access, right? You're able to do it on your phone. And when you get hired to work at the collegiate level, what do they expect you to communicate with? Email. So what do instructors feel comfortable with? Email. Now, the students who say they were very dissatisfied or did not use this tool, I'm not really sure why, because most colleges and universities, once that student becomes a student, they are assigned a college or university email system, and that's how we communicate at Meridian. We give them an EagleNet account, and all my correspondence goes through that email system. From within Blackboard, I can email them directly within Blackboard, and it goes to their EagleNet account. But to me, this was alarming, and I started thinking, well, okay, there's that light bulb. That's why our attrition rate's high. I have to assume that the instructors simply aren't using these materials. And why aren't they using it? They don't know how. And so then I get stuck with a conundrum. This semester alone, I am one ELC. I offered, and this was when Terry and I were still working on it, so that number has grown because I not only offer full-term online courses, I offer term 1 and term 2, so we offer one 16-week section and we offer 2 8-week sessions. And at the time I ran this, I had 124 course sections available. Now, for instructor-wise, I'm looking at probably about 100 or more instructors who are teaching those 124 sections. Now, keep in mind that for my particular college, predominantly my online instructors are full-time faculty members who are asked for an overload or whatever to have an online course, but we do pull in some adjuncts. And I started going, I'm one person, 124 sections, that doesn't compute. There's just no way. And quite honestly, I offer training on campus, and and MCC is very privileged in the fact that Fridays, we don't have classes. Instructors are still required to come to work. Faculty, staff, administrators, we're still required to come to work, and we section that for professional development time. That is time for instructors to get caught up on their classrooms and to attend professional development. And so there I'd be every Friday. I'd have sent out the email, come join me in this room. I'm going to teach you how to do this course, and they didn't come. Well, why didn't they come? Because it wasn't mandatory. Before I was employed at MCC, there was no policy that said, you must be trained on how to use these tools or how to use Blackboard before you're allowed to teach an online course, which is not only a disservice to the student, but it's a disservice to the faculty member. Because if you don't know how to use the tool, you're not going to incorporate it. And if you don't incorporate it, you're going to be very, very frustrated with your retention rates. You're going to be frustrated with what you're able to produce in your online course. You're going to look to your neighbor and go, oh, you got that video, that's great. How'd you do that? Come to the training sessions. So for me, when we started looking as an ELC and I started seeing that the State Department offered professional development opportunities online, instructors could log on onto these courses at their time, at their convenience. Now keep in mind, these are still thought of as an online course. It still has a start date and an end date. And you still have due dates just like you do in your regular classes, but for an instructor, it not only gives access to see the learning environment live and have to use it live, but it also gives them a better understanding of the pedagogy of online learning, because I'm sorry, there's a very strong difference between teaching in a traditional classroom and teaching online. And you just can't keep that same mindset, well, I know the material, I'm just going to throw it in there in a syllabus, I'm going to text. You can't have a text-based online course anymore. You have to use the materials. So for me, it fiscally just made sense. So I got a policy together for my State Department, for my college, that said, you have to take at least one professional development course before you're allowed to teach an online course. And once you're teaching an online course, our instructors are required 8 hours of professional development every year. One of those hours has to be geared towards e-learning. I have specifically said, because I'm one person, and every time I hold a Friday session, nobody comes up, you're going to take an academy course. I prefer you to take those academy courses because I've seen the work that Terry and them have done. I know what's going in because I've taken those courses. I would never expect my faculty to take a course that I don't value myself. So I've signed up for the courses so I know what my instructors will expect. So for me, in order to train my faculty, I'm utilizing this resource that the State Department has provided to me free of charge. And that's going to lead into what Terry's going to talk about and how they configured the MSVCC and the Academy.
Thank you, Krista. I wanted to try to give some information to the whole audience today, feeling like there were going to be a mix of different audiences here. Wanted to talk about professional development here for just for a minute nationally. What's available online outside of the State Department and what we do with the community college system. So this is really just for your own notes. The first couple in particular might be of interest. Lynda.com is a very affordable subscription-based service nationally that an individual can subscribe to. There's an institutional membership as well. Faculty can learn how to do everything from Photoshop to Illustrator to Blackboard. There are even modules on Blackboard at Lynda.com. It's very affordable. And a lot of folks don't know about that. I have to say that the Microsoft Office training and the Adobe training modules are probably the best at the site. It started really from a graphic designer, Lynda, and she now has an empire built around this online training model. Atomic Learning is also another one, and they are a little more tailored to the educational market. Also very affordable, but I'm not seeing the same level of innovation from them as I am from Lynda. The Sloan Consortium. Last year, in our office, we decided that the Academy, as successful as it's been, isn't meeting every need. Because of the growth that we've experienced in the virtual college the last 5 years, we've doubled in the last 5 years. we've had a need to find even more additional training opportunities for our faculty. So we looked at the Sloan Consortium. It is a consortium of individuals, institutions that are all actively engaged in promoting efficacy in pedagogy online. And there are courses, workshops that are offered through Moodle. They usually run 2 to 3 weeks long on anything from accessibility to copyright infringement. They really run the gamut, and they're provided by national experts. EduCause, of course, as well, also offers online professional development. The eLearning Guild, which publishes a magazine that's attractive, that comes out. Blackboard provides professional development. I've taken several of those courses. A couple of years ago, went through their certified trainer program. That was an interesting experience that I'll be happy to talk to you about afterwards. And then the Society for Training and Development, the American Society for Training and Development, which is also well respected. But primarily what we work on, and this is very much a collaborative effort with Krista, with Audra, with all 15 community colleges, and I'll get to that slide here in a moment, is the Academy. This is primarily what we work on. And when I joined the state board 5 years ago, I was given a course that was built collaboratively by the 15 community colleges, and was asked to put it together, find a way to deliver it online, and find faculty teaching in our community college system to take the class. So that process took a bit of time, but we had 2 different audiences for the class, those who had not taught online before, and those who had been teaching online for several years but didn't really understand the pedagogy behind sound online instruction. This is an example of one of our classes. There's not a lot of rocket science to this, but we have, over the years, done a lot of reading and a lot of research to find out what makes a really good online professional development class. And it's nothing really surprising. First of all, we do a good job, I think, of communicating out to our groups about which courses are available, how long they last, and what they're going to learn. We do this months prior to when the classes begin. So they have that saturation point. They're hit with that information 2 or 3 times. They can sign up in January for a class that begins in March or April through an online database that we have. When they log into the class, they have what you might expect to see on the left-hand side in your table of contents menu. In the week 1 area, we have a learning map document. Get out to the next slide. And this learning map document is always provided at the very top. This is the image that shows up, and there's a bigger view of this. Walking them through sequentially what they're going to learn, what the visual indicator looks like in Blackboard, in that section of Blackboard. What is the title of the assignment in bold, so they can find it if they're looking for it in bold font, and then the objectives. Why are we doing this? That's really important. A lot of times online professional development, or any professional development, is just somebody standing up and saying, here's what we're going over today. But the people in the audience don't understand why they're learning it in the first place. So we make sure that they get that.
And I have to tell you, from a student standpoint of taking these courses, this particular, I've told Terry many times, this is phenomenal. Not only am I in ELC, but I'm a mother, I'm a student, I have a husband, I have a life outside of my job and outside of this. So by having something that tells me week 1, this is what to expect, it really keeps me tied in to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to. It keeps me on track, makes me a little bit more responsible. And I will give many kudos to Terry and to his people that facilitate the courses. This one was done by Jenny Jones, but each week, and I don't know if you guys could see that, but on the navigation it said week 1, week 2, week 3, and so each week there is one of these. And for me, I can just print it off, stick it on my tech board in front of my computer and go, okay, got to do that this week, this is due. It's really, really helpful, and not only can you use these in professional development courses, but I would highly recommend it in any of your online courses. Even your traditional courses could benefit from just having that little snapshot.
That's funny, because that's the reason why we started going to this model, is because we knew that for faculty who were a little timid about technology, they wanted to learn the technology. They would log in, they would get into the system, and then they had the now what experience. Well, with the document, it ties them, it roots them. Everybody knows how to print a document. I mean, what is the common denominator? So we knew that because everyone could find that document, could print that document, they had information. And it also helps with the facilitator too, because the facilitator may not have taught the class in 2 to 3 months or 4 to 5 months. So it helps to keep them on track. If there's confusion for the person who's taking the class, and they say, well, I'm confused about something. Well, more often than not, they're going to actually name the assignment they're confused about. So it speeds up the identification of the problem and the resolution of the problem just by having that document in there.
All right, so now we're going to get you all involved. We have a little activity for you. And this is going to tie into parts of the rest of our presentation, but how did you know where today's conference was?
We were in Hampton, so we sent our announcement across the university.
Okay, so you're a USM person then. That's how you found out. Anybody else not USM that didn't get that email?
Are the rest of the individuals in here, University Medical Center, Hines, the rest of you folks, are you all USM folks? Okay, you are. All right. Let's go through with another example. When was the last time you gave directions to somebody to get to a particular place? Did you tell them a story, or did you give them instructions? First you do this, second you do this, third you do this, fourth you do this. Yeah. I'm seeing some heads nod. Have you ever been given instructions by someone who said, oh, you just turn right by the cow pasture, then you turn left around the cul-de-sac, and then you look around, there you are, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, I'm totally turned around, right? That exercise is really intended to get across two different things. When we're given some information, we want it to be sequential so we can follow it. And when we're getting to a particular destination, nothing is better than sequential information. Give me the steps I need in the direct order I need them in, any order I need them in. If you've done any teaching in your classroom, as I once did, you would have thought I would have known that first day I started teaching, but it took me a while to learn. It's okay to get in front of the class, give the big picture, then you still got to write on the board 1, 2, 3, 4. No matter the level of student, they need that information.
Step by step.
Yep.
Because it drives me crazy when, as Terry said that example, and then I don't know if y'all noticed, but sometimes when you're listening to someone, then they're like, oh, that cow pasture, my mama used to work over there, and then you're like, okay, wait a minute, cow pasture, and your mama worked there, and it really gets you lost. So you have to give students, especially in an online, whether you're working with students or faculty, once those faculty enter into the online professional development arena, they are students, they're learning a new tool, and you have to give them explicit details. And for me, as somebody who's learning new material, I need to know, okay, step 1, click here, step 2, click here, okay, and then this is how I can upload it, so that I could then relay that information back to my own faculty if they didn't have the time to take the course, or they chose not to take the course until we made it mandatory.
So the picture down there at the bottom right, the 3 circles and how they're all intertwined there, receptive, directive, and guided discovery, the 3 learning architectures put forward by Ruth Colvin Clark, a pioneer and a well-respected authority on e-learning. This is the model that we use for our online classes. So in every online class that our faculty take, they get directions on how to complete a particular task. But they also start out with the receptive. What information transfer? What information do I need to know? So that's usually transmitted by way of text, sometimes by audio. The directive part is when they have to take particular steps to complete something for the facilitator to evaluate that member on. And then lastly, guided discovery. So those 3 questions up there. Did you learn the information passively? Did you learn a procedure? Did you problem solve? We know that if all 3 of those are taking place in an online professional development environment, the faculty are learning the information. Okay. So this is her quote here. The 3 architectures and the learning assumptions on which they are based are receptive, based on information acquisition, directive, based on a response strengthening view, and guided discovery, based on a knowledge construction view. We wanted to give you some examples of this. So, aside from doing what I do, I sometimes make the joke that after 5 o'clock I Cinderella myself into an illustrator, because when I get home I like to draw. I've always liked to draw. But this is a picture of me and a really great talent that we have in our system, Jenny Jones at Holmes Community College. She's one of our best trainers, and she understands the Blackboard Grade Center like nobody I've ever seen. We sat down last summer to build a course on the Blackboard Grade Center. How many of you use the Blackboard Grade Center in here? Okay. Do you use it to its full capability, or do you just use enough to get by? Do you wish you knew more about the Grade Center in Blackboard? Okay. Yeah, and there's so much in that Grade Center that you can do. You can have it just show you particular things that you want to see for a student. You can have it weight your columns for you. There's a lot that you can do, but with the functionality, it has overwhelmed a lot of our faculty because it's one screen and they get in there and they feel intimidated. They're not sure what to do. So we sat down and we just talked. We had a conversation about it, and it was actually kind of a funny story because we intended to capture the entire conversation with one of the tools that we use. And we intended to provide it as a podcast for the person taking the class when the class was built. It didn't work. We had problems. And this is one of these things that we're always having to adapt to. Just adapt. We took the language, we transcripted it, we listened to it, we transcripted the whole thing, and I wanted to read part of it to you. Krista, can you play the part of Jenny? All right, just do a little quick role play here. This is a transcript from our conversation. I say, Jenny, what are 3 letters that every online instructor detests?
LDA, LDA, LDA.
Yeah, last day of attendance.
Exactly. And do you know where you can find this in the Grade Center? Yeah, you can find it in the Grade Center. It's one of those difficult columns that shows in every class. So by default, when you get that shell from your eLearning coordinator, that column is already there. Are there any other default columns that would be useful?
Yes, there's one called student availability. When you withdraw a student at your college, et cetera, et cetera. So we took a bad situation, really, a day that we felt might have been wasted, but we put it into a blog, and the nice thing about it is it's available for everybody. So it's now part of the professional development course, but it's also part of the, for anyone else to enjoy and benefit from. So this is part of what we do in terms of receptive, just getting the information transferred to the individual in a very informal, casual way. And then we do what's probably more expected, more traditional. We'll put in information as a Blackboard item inside the Blackboard class. At certain points in the class, we want to verify that the faculty member has understood something, and usually this means uploading a screenshot, a picture, completing a document, completing a worksheet, uploading that back to the course. The facilitator will then review the worksheet in many cases. A lot of times these worksheets are pedagogically driven. They're really trying to get at what the aims of the instructor are. They're not really about the technology and about the tools. That'll come much later. And we survey all of the faculty too, and that has really been helpful. We've always been open to criticism and open to feedback from faculty, and we've improved our classes. The third part of the eLearning architecture is to give them an opportunity for guided discovery. So every faculty member that's taken a class, they're enrolled in their own Blackboard shell, blank, empty slate, empty canvas for them to go in and play around. These are just 4 or 5 examples from different faculty. You can see that there's different images in each one. The teachers were building things in there, and then the facilitator came in and followed and logged into that class and was able to verify, okay, you did this, you did that, or I'd like for you to change this a little bit. And that's been really helpful. This is one of our courses that's been well received. I wanted just to give you an idea of the objectives of one of these classes. This is a class called Speak to Me, trying to challenge the notion that a text-based course, to deliver online is sufficient enough. This course challenges that notion and tries to get faculty to think more about using their own voice to engage their students. This picture, I downloaded this picture a couple of years ago. Love this photograph. It's of a guy in a hallway with a book open, and he's looking at it. And he's got a couple of students around there talking about what just happened in class. You don't really have this happen in an online environment. That's a problem. And I hope we use the picture in the class to illustrate that this kind of thing needs to happen. This is where a lot of learning occurs for the student. So in the first week of the class, we talk about things like that. In the second week of the class, they actually participate in a podcast. They build a voice board, and they build a voice presentation. So in the voice presentation, they pull in outside websites and lay an audio track on top of that. In the third week, we say, okay, we've gone over a lot of stuff in this class. What you really want to know right now at this point is how these different tools differ from each other. What's the use case for this tool? Why do I want to use a podcast instead of a voice board? Why do I want to use a voice presentation instead of a YouTube video? And so they leave the class. Right after that, they do a faculty action plan. They have to actually write up, okay, here's how I'm going to use the tools in my classes. And they turn that in. And so we get them to the very last step where they're really armed with the information, they own up to the idea, and then they're equipped to do it next term.
And from my standpoint, I have had several faculty members who have completed this course. Brenda Fortson and Beth Calderon, they teach Spanish for us, and they teach it online as well. Well, it's really hard to teach linguistics online unless the students can hear it. And I hate to say this in case there's any publishers in here, but there's only so much that a publisher can do. They have a lot of bells and whistles with their content that can be available in the Blackboard course, but the instructor can convey exactly what they want. So I've had those instructors take these courses, they're uploading podcasts, they're doing Win the Classrooms, and they're really able to get that message out there to their students, and the students can actually physically hear that instructor speaking Spanish to them so that they can better understand the subject. We're also using it in college study skills, and we're seeing really good responses as that as well online.
So a quick snapshot workflow from beginning to end, how our courses are built. We work with e-learning trainers across the community colleges. We have talent. We know the people well enough across the system to know where is there an individual who knows a lot about this particular thing? Where is there an individual that knows a lot about this? We write a small contract. That person then feels re-energized to develop that course plan. They define the course objectives, and we together map weekly activities. What will they be doing each week? And this is all a very collaborative process across the 15 community colleges. So if one school has a problem with an idea that we're building in the class, they challenge us on it, and we redesign, we step backward on it. After the facilitator may be somebody else instead of the course developer. Maybe it's not the subject matter expert, it's a facilitator at one of the colleges. I might facilitate the class too from time to time. I enjoy doing that a whole lot. When they finish the class, they verify they've completed it, we enter it into a database, and we print off a certificate for that individual. Now, I'm really excited. I want to throw this out there. The database we have used for the last 3 years has served our purposes really, really well. But we have taken this model that's been really successful the last 4 years, and we're making it much, much bigger. In the fall of this year, we will have access for all the 15 community colleges to build their own professional development by discipline and offer it to anybody else in the state. So we're really excited about that. Those of you who've worked in the community college system or know something about it know that most of our campuses are rural, and you might have an individual in a hallway who teaches algebra who is next door to somebody who teaches marriage and family. So there's not an ability to really have professional development in their discipline as they'd like to. And there's only a couple of statewide associations. The English Instructors Association is one of the strongest associations in the state, but there are a lot of disciplines they don't really have a peer network. So we're going to develop that. So if you are teaching something and you're really passionate about what you teach and you also know something about technology, you can build a short course. We're going to make it available for anybody else in the community college system and would be happy to open it up larger than that as well. But that will be coming this fall. So we've had a lot on our plate, but we're trying to scale the model up more.
Well, and from an administrative standpoint, again, it's just fiscally, the best thing for us to do. If those of you who work at a university, I've come from a university. If you think your funding's bad, come work at a community college. So for us, if this is a model that you're thinking you might want to look into, training your faculty online through the professional development system, it really does help. And, that's not to take away from what you have on campus, but I'm able, once we can do this online and I can now offer my own online professional development courses, I'm able to meet a larger audience, and I'm still able to work within their time constraints of being an instructor, because our instructors are mothers and fathers and students and teachers, and you have to really think about that as we move forward.
Just to give you some meat behind my part of the presentation, Krista's already done hers at the very beginning, but we sent out sort of a call last fall and said, okay, those of you who went through the classes a couple of years ago, what are you seeing now in terms of retention in particular? And with the nursing program at Holmes Community College, they saw a 23% increase in 1 year. And that just blew my mind that it has improved that much. And I said, are you absolutely certain that you can attribute this only to the use of voice technology in your classes? She said, it's the only thing we changed. So we were really, really jazzed about that. We share that statistic all the time. We have over 1,000 folks who've completed. Now, that is duplicated. Krista has taken, I think, 5 of our 6 classes. Yay, Krista. We also have about 15 or 20 other folks who've taken nearly every class. I love these people. They're energized by learning. They always want to learn something. I mean, that's how I am, I love those people. We're averaging about 250 graduates a year right now. Our mode of delivery is evolving. We've always believed in the asynchronous course mode of delivery for professional development, but at the same time, we want to start building a live component to this. And now that we have Blackboard Collaborate and we feel like it's mature enough to try to introduce that tool into our professional development, we started that this spring. Actually, last fall we started that. It did not go over very well, but that's fine. I mean, it's all about trying new things. And if you make a mistake or if you drop a ball somewhere, you pick it back up, and that's what we're going to do with that. And then the peer-to-peer course model is something we're going to start this fall.
So for us, lessons learned at the local college level, I learned my first year, you can't just suggest professional development. I hate to say that. I would have those instructors, they would be the one instructor to show up every single Friday, even if they took that class already, because they would have gotten a question. They always came to it every single Friday. You can't just suggest it. In order for it to be effective, and in order for your faculty to improve, because technology is evolving, so therefore as a faculty member, you have to be willing to evolve with it. In my opinion, professional development has to be mandatory. That's the only way that you're going to stay current. If you're not required to attend and you're one of those instructors who's not all jazzed up to go, you're probably not going to go. Something's always going to get in the way. And by having that opportunity online, that really breaks down that barrier of, well, I've got a class to teach. Well, my son's sick, because you can log in later when you have time to log in. And I'll have to be very honest with you. Me taking the courses, I know how much time it took. So when a faculty member says, Chris, I just don't have time to take that course, I can say, yeah, you do. I did it. I did it while working on a PhD, having a baby, having a husband, going to school. I mean, I did it, so it's possible. You also need to implement policies on training. So not only should it be mandatory that they should take professional development before they're teaching online or before they start using a new tool, even if you're using it in your traditional classroom, you should also continue to implement policies on training to continue that training. Training should be continuous. It should not stop. Just because you've learned the tool once, eventually there's going to be a service pack upgrade. Eventually there's going to be a 2.0 instead of a 1.0. So continue to be willing to be that energetic teacher who wants to continue using that product, because I loved Wimba Pronto, and now it's Blackboard Instant Messenger Suite 11 or something like that. And so I had to be willing to make my changes because I was asking my faculty to use it, so therefore I had to be willing to as well. And then you need to be willing to highlight the accomplishment. To me, I uploaded a picture. Here's one of my pictures of my certificates. I'm sorry, it's small. I took it on my phone on my desk. But, I get those certificates, and I'm sorry, even now I'm like, look at what I've done, and I want to hang it up. Instructors are the same way. Students are the same way. They want to highlight their accomplishments. So for us at MCC, we do what's called the Monday Morning, which is a faculty staff newsletter. Anytime I have a faculty member who has completed one of the training courses and I've gotten their certificate in the mail and I'm getting ready to distribute it, I put it in the Monday morning. I'm like, guess what, Angie Caraway just completed, such and such. Let's give her congratulations or whatever. Because to me, that is an accomplishment. You have made the decision as that faculty member to take this course and to not only sign up for it, but to complete it and then start moving towards using that piece of technology into your course site.
So just some additional information, Krista?
My dissertation, I'm going to give myself a little plug. My dissertation is titled Logging Off Attrition in Online Community College Courses, but I really feel it's relevant not only to the community college setting, but also to the university setting. As I've said earlier, I came from a university. I came from a large university that had a very large online program before I made the shift over to a community college. And statistically, 96% of universities and colleges are offering some form of online learning. So that's phenomenal. Online learning is the fastest growing form of education right now. And we need to, continue to keep ourselves cognizant of that and aware of that and moving forward so that we can continue to keep those numbers high. I don't want my attrition to be up here. I want to be able to start leveling it out.
And Krista, you said your dissertation would be available sometime later this year?
It's I put it up. They asked me to publish it, so it's in the process because, as I said, I just defended a couple weeks ago, but I've already submitted it for the Journal of Computing and Higher Education, and that should come out in the summer edition. So,
some other opportunities. Jenny Jones at Holmes Community College and I will be presenting at the Blackboard Collaborate Distinguished Lecture Series on March 27th at 1 o'clock. I would give you the address, but it's really, really long. And so the easiest way, believe it or not, to find this is if you Google these words, Blackboard Collaborate Distinguished Lecture Series, you'll find it. Look for that date, March 27th at 1 o'clock. It's the only session that day. And it's not just us talking about what we've learned, but Corey Stokes at the University of Utah, he is a national pioneer as well in a lot of things with e-learning and technology. And then lastly, Christian Pruitt and I co-authored an article that will be published next year in New Horizons in Teaching and Learning, talking about our professional development initiative. And it really gets more to the heart of the challenges that we faced along the way with problems that we had the first couple of years with our classes, technical problems that were difficult to overcome. It's really more of an article about leadership, I think, than anything else. And so we're proud of that, and that will be out next year.
And additionally, we would like to invite everyone in here. We offer, the MSVCC does, we have our own conference coming up. We have the Creating Futures Through Technology Conference, which will be held at the Beau Rivage in Biloxi.
March 7th through the 9th.
March 7th through the 9th. And you'll be able to see some of the presentations on the tools that we've spoken about in this presentation, and you can also ask more questions about online professional development. Does anyone have any questions, comments, suggestions? Well, if there's no questions, we do have our contact information. We would welcome any questions, suggestions, comments you might have. And so if you want to take down our information, get a hold of us. But we really thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.